When the enemy tells you you'll never make it through that problem or circumstance, when he says you're not enough, when he tries to remind you of everything you did wrong or all the failed situations in your life, you gotta snatch that fool by the throat. Remind him who you are and whose you are. Put your foot on his neck. When I say run me my crown, I stand boldly and I look the enemy square in the eye and I tell him to run me everything he stole from me. Everything that God says is mine, run it back. My peace, my joy, love overflowing, wisdom, power, purpose, run it back. 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 Who you are. Run it back. Who you are. Run it back. Who you are. Run it back. Baby, listen. Sometimes the person I need to tell to run me my crown is me. Sometimes I'm the one that needs to be reminded of who I am. Sometimes I'm the one that needs to be reminded that I'm a child of the Most High King and I was already born fierce, foxy, and fine. I was born worthy. My daddy owns all of this. And it's time I act like it. We all go through, right? But in the spirit of sisterhood, I'm sharing my story transparently so that you don't have to tarry alone. Don't let the enemy make you believe that isolation is of God. He's a whole fool, sis. Healing happens in community, and sisterhood saved my life. My life, my life, my life, my life, my life, my life. Well, welcome. Welcome to the Run Me My Crown radio show. I am Dawania, aka Foxy's baby, and it's my pleasure, my privilege. I'm honored to be here once again. Listen, God is good, y'all. I'm just grateful. And although I know y'all know I'm so used to talking about sisterhood, but where would we be if it wasn't for our brothers? We need the protection of our brothers. We need the provision of our brothers, right? Listen, I'm excited. It's Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And of course, you know, I've been wearing my purple lipstick all month long. We have had an incredible month so far. And I'm just grateful to be here once again to share my story. And this is where it gets good, y'all. I promise y'all, this is where it gets good. So I'm not going to go through the full bio, but listen, I got to tell y'all a thing or two about my brother. The one and only, I call him the Rev or the good Reverend Doctor. But he has an incredibly special place in my heart because he's an integral part in my healing journey. And it really is just a matter of his yes. You know, when I think about who he is and who he's been in my life and even in the lives of those that are connected to me, you know, I think about his incredible wife who we actually had on last week as she's a breast cancer survivor celebrating 2 years cancer free. But when I think about all of this, right, the Donald Crutchfield, I think about how important it is for us to, one, obey God, and two, to move when he says move.
Absolutely.
And so as I introduce to some and present to others, this is my brother. Again, I call him the good Reverend Doctor. But I wanted to read something that was in your bio that really hit me. It says, of course, you know, I mean, it's lengthy because, yeah, you've been doing the doggone thing for the kingdom. But when it said Elder Crutchfield, being led by the Spirit of God, founded Second Chance Community Baptist Church in 2010. It is his burden and calling to preach good tidings to the poor, heal the brokenhearted, and proclaim liberty to the captives, as in Isaiah 61:1. He truly believes that the mistreated, hurt, and broken should give God a second chance so that they can be healed, delivered, and set free. Listen, I could go lay right here on the floor right there. I could lay right here in the middle of this floor on that note. Because of course, when we actually first met, let's go back. So what was that? 2009 to our very first encounter. And of course, I can tell it from my perspective, but certainly want you to be able to share what your thoughts were and how it looked for you. But I remember 2009. For those who don't know, Foxy, my mother, who I called the original Foxy Brown, I later shortened it to just Foxy. Of course, I am Foxy's baby. Get it? So May of 2009, my mother passed away suddenly. And so as you can imagine, I was heartbroken. I didn't know what to do. I went into a serious stage of depression. I struggled to do simple things like eat. I struggled to do, just to get up and take a shower, to do anything, to be honest. And so, of course, my sister, your wife, Melinda, she and I, we've been very tight for many years now. And we were heading to Delaware to a fashion jewelry company that we were both involved in. We were going up with another mutual friend of ours. And here I am in the back seat of that car, minding my business. I wasn't bothering nobody, y'all. I was barely breathing, if we could keep it real. But I'm in the back seat of the car, minding my business. And you're on the phone with, it was the mutual friend first that you were on the phone with, right?
That's correct.
And then, of course, the phone was passed to Melinda. And you and she were having a conversation. And it wasn't even clear at that point that you would be like, that was your good thing.
Absolutely.
But you were just, having a conversation. And then fast forward, boom, what was the moment for you?
Well, the mutual friend had called me to share, to pray for you guys, traveling mercies to Delaware from Maryland. And, I get this call. I wake up out of my sleep and somebody wants prayer. So me being who I am, we start praying.
Right.
And as we were praying, the Lord began to move prophetically and share with me that the person who was driving the vehicle was under a cloud of blessings, even though the young lady who called me never said she was accompanied by anybody. And so as I shared the prophecy about the clouds of blessings, from what I understand, you guys pulled into the toll booth and the person in the booth confirmed what I just prophesied.
Yep.
And then God further shared with me to tell the young lady who called me to get into the back seat because somebody needed a hug, like a hug from their mother, not knowing you was that person and your mom had just passed.
Yes.
And so that's how the connection was made.
Baby. What a connection it was. Because I remember literally going into, well, for one, anybody who knows me knows I express everything through tears, whether I'm happy, sad, angry, it doesn't matter. It's all going to be expressed through tears. And so there was a part of me that was so grateful and didn't really understand what was happening, but I knew I needed that hug. And it was almost like she was hugging me because you told her to, right? But in essence, God was using her to breathe the life back into me.
Wow.
Because in that very moment, I was giving up in so many different ways. I was going through in a major way. Connected to individuals I had no business being connected to, which made it even worse that I had just lost my mother, so it was compounded situations on top of situations. And of course, I was then, a mother to two small children. I mean, well, they weren't that small, but they were small enough. My youngest daughter would have been 8. And my oldest would have been going on 14. So, they very much still need their mother's care.
Absolutely.
And how am I effectively and efficiently being their mother if I'm broken and downtrodden and brokenhearted the way I was. And so I remember, this mutual friend just literally, she climbed, she didn't get out the car and walk around. She climbed through the seat and got into the back seat with me. And she held me so tight. And it truly was like as if, my mother was there again.
Wow.
And ironically enough is if any, people have been following my story long enough, they realize my mother didn't do a lot of lovey-dovey, huggy, kissy, smoochy, all that. It wasn't until the very end of, our journey together that I'd finally gotten her, into saying I love you and, giving hugs or taking pictures, things of that nature together. And so in that moment, like I said, I just remember it was like nothing else mattered. That hug was everything. So much so that 12 years later, I'm still talking about that hug.
Wow.
Now I know, we dealing with COVID-19 and we got the vax versus the anti-vax and all that foolishness. But listen, none of that mattered in that moment. There was a moment when I truly felt the love of my mother, but I also felt the love of God in that moment. And so, of course, we went on about our business. Of course, I still had many trials from that moment on until our second encounter. But even let's fast forward to that encounter because that, oh, Jesus, come on here. So correct me if I'm wrong. I want to say it was April of 2010.
February.
It was February. Oh, so it was February. Okay. So again, if you've been following my story long enough, you'll know that February 4th of 2010, I was assaulted by my then fiance. And it was a tumultuous journey, to say the least. We were 4 months away from our wedding. We had purchased a 4-bedroom, 2.5 bath home. Like we had done all these big things. So the world, it made it look like our relationship was perfect. But at the house, it was far from. And what was crazy about it was that 99% of the time, this gentleman was truly a gentleman. He was loving and kind, and he took care of me. He did all these things, right? But it was that 1% that erased all the other 99.
Wow.
That 1% when things didn't maybe just go his way or there was a disagreement of sorts. And on this day, we disagreed about whether to buy pancake mix or waffles. That's how simple it was. It didn't even have to be anything, tremendously broad. It didn't have to be anything intricate. It was just that simple. I wanted to buy waffles because I had an 8-year-old that I didn't want to necessarily have to get up and make, food for, because she was independent in that regard. She could make cereal or waffles or what have you. He wanted pancake mix. I even said, okay, let's just go ahead and get the pancake mix. That wasn't good enough. It ended up becoming an assault out on the main highway of the area where we lived. So, of course, we fast forward to later that month, then I would have come in contact with you. And when we first encountered one another, we didn't even know who each other were. Now, I knew you were there because, of course, by this time, it's clear that my sister, Melinda, is your good thing. It's clear by this time. So I knew you were there. I knew I'd get to meet you that day. But we actually met before she had an opportunity to introduce you.
Absolutely.
And so if we could go back to that moment and you tell me what you remember God telling you in that very moment.
Well, I remember we were putting catalogs in our vehicles, and I was putting the catalogs in our vehicle, and when I turned, you were losing control of your box.
Yes.
And I wanted to assist you, and I didn't know, but I always feel like it's a duty of men who profess the name of Jesus to show the world that chivalry is not dead.
That's right.
It might be on life support, but it's not dead. And we have an obligation to show the world that we are men. And when you deal with a godly man, that this is the bar. This is where things are set. You know, you don't have to compromise being treated like a queen, being honored like a queen. And so we have to learn to display it often enough that people will understand this is the standard.
And indeed, I remember I literally, that box was going. It was going to hit the ground. But I remember you literally, and just so seamlessly too, stuck out your arm and caught it. Like it was like a 1-2 step. What's that? The Sierra, look, the Sierra song 1-2 step. Like that's really how it went. But boom. And just like that, in my mind, all I could think was, whew. One, it was a, you know, it was a relief that I didn't have to now scurry up all these catalogs off the floor. But two, it for me was a moment where it was like, oh, God ain't forgot about me. He sees what you're struggling with.
Absolutely.
And again, not knowing who you were in that moment, this just a nice gentleman who, you know, happened to be there. Boom. I'm thinking it, you know, it was a coincidence. He happened to be there. I'll never see this man again, but God bless you. Thank you so much. And then not only, you know, a few minutes later, to find my sister all excited. Girl, come on, let me tell you, this is Red. And I'm like, oh my God. That's the same man. The same man that just blessed my life by just simply holding out his hand for me. He didn't ask no questions. He didn't try to figure out what was wrong. He saw a need, stuck out his hand, and boom. And so, yeah, fast forward to that moment when I finally know who you are. And of course, you know, this is the aftermath of the physical assault, and, you know, you going through the separation of stuff, if you will. And so, you know, to bring it, you know, to that current moment, I wasn't telling, like, there was people very close to me, like my best friend hadn't even known. Like, she got so on me because I hadn't shared what I was dealing with. I literally dealt with this situation for months by myself. One, out of pride, two, out of fear. And, you know, just maybe being a little bit gullible, you know, wanting it to change, believing that if I loved him hard enough, it would make a difference. But, you know, obviously you can't love someone into loving you. You can't love someone enough to change who they are at the core. They have to want to change. And so that's, you know, that's the common theme that I'm always sharing is you gotta believe them when they show you who they are, you know? And so, of course, fast forward now, you know who I am. I know who you are. Melinda had just found out about, you know, this whole domestic situation. And I don't know if she shared it with you or if that was another God moment, but you tell me what you remember in that, you know, in that time frame, like what happened? Because I remember she called me and she's like, we got to meet. And I'm like, okay.
You know, I remember just coming abreast of you just losing your mom, and now this situation is going on in your life, and I really just wanted to do something. I just wanted to help you because, see, you said something very significant in your last paragraph when you talked about trying to, if you love somebody enough, maybe they'll love you back. Well, what I've discovered is this: too many times we're so hung up on the idea of being in love
Yes.
that we look beyond the red flags. We look beyond. If I can be transparent, we look beyond the bozo characteristics, the
Come on.
clownish things, and we just go along for the ride of thinking we can fix something, or this really isn't this, or this will change. But the truth of the matter is, when bozo shows you he's a clown, either you can stay and be entertained, or you can keep it moving. Now, unfortunately, I just really want to interject this right here, is that if we understand the nature of a clown is designed to distract you while they set up the next segment. And most of the time, the enemy uses the clown to keep you distracted from Boaz. And Bozo always precedes Boaz. But nobody's talking about this in the Christian community. And then we wonder why the divorce rate is higher in the church than it is in the world.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
But I'm gonna let you stay on. Let's stay on.
No, listen. You already know that we let the Holy Spirit have His way up in here.
You know, it's a journey. It's a slippery slope that the church has been on for so long. We don't understand that God has a structure and a plan. And it's God's design for us to be a family and to be a family component. And when you get the pieces out of alignment, it might work for a little while, but it ultimately ends in divorce and destruction.
Yeah.
And so, you know, that's why we have to correct the first step. The first step is, when you show me who you are, I'm going to believe you the first time. You know, it's funny. I say this in a joking manner all the time when I counsel people when they come to me for wanting to be married. Is I share with them about, look, don't be, you know, assaulting one another. Don't be putting your hands on each other violently. Because I let them know. I say, listen, I know men, we try to be macho, but I will quickly be like, preach it down. Hey, no, I'm not having it. My mama didn't birth me for me to be a punching bag.
Right.
And so we have to understand, one of the biggest tricks the enemy use on young ladies, if I can say this, Dawania, is this. The enemy always want to break down a woman's esteem because you guys are emotional creatures. That's why even in your early rearing, it's about your image. It's about your hair. It's about the color of your skin. It's about all of these things to make you feel less than. And when most men come to abuse you, he starts out normally verbally assaulting who you are before he moved it to the next level of taking it to a physical.
Mm-hmm.
You know, mentally, he wants to tear your esteem down. He wants you to think that you can't do any better. You should be grateful he's even interested in you. And there's nothing further from the truth, because we know that the word says that you was wonderfully and beautifully made. You know, we got to understand that it doesn't matter when a person say negative things about you. It's not what they say, it's what God says about you.
That's right.
And so, you know, as you share your situation and how we moved from where you stopped into counseling, my whole thing was I had two objectives in meeting with you. Number one, to help you to find your hope again. And secondly, to let you know that this situation didn't define you, that you still have purpose on the other side of this. And it's amazing to watch you, Dawania, to watch you reclaim your voice, to watch you see your story, your testimony. It reminds me of a scripture story in the Bible where Peter, the devil was desiring to sift him as wheat. But the Lord said, but I prayed for you. And he said, and when you overcome this thing, go back and strengthen your brothers and your sisters. That's what I see you doing, because I see that beyond that incident. That's not who you are. That's not what defines you. You know, it's so much life on the other side of that. But can I tell you something? Don't ever diminish that, because that was such a breakthrough for you to be who you are today.
Yeah.
You know, I was sitting here at my desk today, and I was in prayer, and I was just talking to God. And I know you can't see it, but it's a large window right here behind the screen. And I was sitting here, and God showed me how a caterpillar becomes a butterfly.
Mm-hmm.
And I was looking at it, it almost looked so real, but I'm just like, ain't no butterflies coming out this time of the year. And I'm looking, and the next thing I know, the Lord was like, now, what did you see? And I was like, well, I saw the caterpillar coming out of the cocoon and became the butterfly. And the Lord said, well, you do know that the story didn't really end when the cocoon opened. Can I tell you something? What are butterflies known for? Their beauty, their colors. Well, they don't get their beauty and their color until the cocoon scratches their bodies on their way out. And see, honey, you got to understand that it took this situation for you to really scratch some things to show your beauty and shine through. It's amazing, but guess what? The Dawania that was before then, she was the caterpillar who could only see from the ground's perspective. But after she came out the cocoon, and after she got her beauty, and after she found purpose, now Dawania is an author of a book. Now she's on platforms. Now she's taking her voice, and now she's encouraging other women across this country to get their voice. And guess what? And the biggest thing is, and she's given all the credit and all the glory to God.
All of it.
And that's the thing that's just amazing. That's what I see that's amazing. Because guess what, Dawania? You have so many obstacles that you could have gave up. You know, you could have any excuse would have did, no matter some of the hurtful situations you went through. But guess what? It took all of those things for you to sit where you're sitting right now. You know, a lot of times, because my life is so laid back now, my wife is constantly making sure I read a book and not spend too much time in front of the TV. But I tell her, I say, you know, sometimes God give me stuff when I'm watching the TV.
Mm-hmm.
And you know the movie, The 5 Heartbeats,
Yeah.
when they got the gold album, and Duck came up to the mic and he said, the guy told him, he said, Duck Matthews, one day you're going to be a great writer after you've suffered enough. And when I was meditating on what the Lord would have me say today, and I was thinking about you, the scripture came to my mind in 1 Peter 5:10 that says, but the God of all grace, who have called us unto his eternal glory by Christ Jesus, after ye have suffered a while, make you perfect, establish, strengthen, and he'll settle you. So, honey, can I tell you something? Yeah, you went through it, but guess what? God knew it was something down on the inside of you that you hadn't even discovered yet. There was a courageousness on the inside of you that you hadn't even tapped in yet. But guess what, honey? I can promise you that if you think about it right now, I've heard you enough say, you don't even shy away when you see the devil coming. You look him dead in his face and let him know, not today.
Right in the eye. Snatch him by the throat. And it's funny you said that because we had that moment right before we started where,
Absolutely.
the mic was acting like it didn't want to work. And what did I do?
Absolutely. That's right. That's
Because he
right.
ain't gonna get me all frazzled, get my panties in a bunch for what? You're not gonna win.
Absolutely.
I already know his routine. He knows that what the Lord is fitting to do, how he's gonna come through here and change lives. And he wants me to say, oh no, we're not gonna do it today. Listen, if I had to get on here and talk myself, that's what we would have did. We would have had you do some sign language, something. And of course, when I promoted the fact that you were going to be on tonight, I joked and I said, note to self, bring tissues.
Wow.
And I forgot. I forgot my tissues. But one thing I can say is that the tears that I shed today are tears of just gratefulness, just thanksgiving, just knowing that all of what I've given out, because I feel like it's my life's purpose at this point to always be encouraging others, to share my story, to let people know, because I know what it's like to be hopeless. I know what it's like to be downtrodden. I know what it's like to be heartbroken and literally in bondage. I know what it's like to need to be set free. And so I'm always doing my best to encourage someone. And it's just so incredibly amazing to me that, and of course we know, I don't know why I act like I don't know. Like, I don't know who God is. I know who he is, and I know he's strategic. And I know that everything that I give, I'm going to get back, and I get it back in abundance, right? It's not, oh, I give one thing and I get one thing. I give one thing and he gives me back 10. He gives me back 100, sometimes even more. But to get on here tonight and think, oh, we're going to share this story so somebody gets set free. When I tell you I feel another level of freedom tonight, I feel another level of freedom to where I'm like, you know what? I said I was going to bed after this because I was going to get up early tomorrow. But no, I think I need to write tonight. There's another book that needs to be birthed starting tonight. Just another level of freedom. And one of the things too that I often think about is if I hadn't fought for my freedom, because of course, I had to be a willing participant,
Absolutely.
right? Absolutely. I had to open that door every Tuesday and Thursday when you showed up. And let's be real, there were many days that I was like, ooh, maybe I could text him and say, I ain't feeling well today. Let's reschedule. But the reality is I had to fight through it. And I'm so glad I did. And I'm just, again, just tremendously grateful for you saying yes, you saying, God said, and here I am. Because again, for anyone who especially lives in the Maryland area, you were traveling from PG County to Anne Arundel County twice a week. Yeah. Not knowing how this was going to play out, what was going to be on the other side of the door. You start digging into people's past, you really don't know what's going to pop up. And of course, we know there was a lot of stuff that we were able to uncover because of, your tutelage and me being able to say, okay. But one thing that really sticks out to me, well, two things. The first thing is I remember you asking me, Dawania, what do you like to do? And I reference that a lot because it blew my mind that I could not answer you. I legit could not tell you what I like to do. I'm a whole grown woman with 2 kids, a so-called fiance, and all this jazz, and I can't even tell you what I like to do. I can tell you what all of them like to do, but I had completely lost myself. And that was a lot of the problem, you know? And the other thing that sticks out to me is, if you recall, there was a half bathroom by the door, by the front door.
Mm-hmm.
And we went into that bathroom, and I remember feeling like, what are we even doing? Just being real. I'm like, because if I can be 100% transparent, which y'all know me, I'm always transparent. After all, it is Transparent Tuesday, right? But in that moment, I was just like, listen, I've been through counseling before. I felt like it was a waste of time, but I was willing to do this just because my sister was involved. That was my mindset at the beginning. I'm gonna just do this because that's Rev and Melinda and Rev. They got this thing, like that's her her husband. Like we knew that this is what it was. So I ain't want to be no cause of any friction or anything, right? So I'm like, I'm gonna just show up. So when it doesn't work, because counseling it is not gonna work. But when it doesn't work, you can't say it was my fault because I showed up. That was my mentality. So fast forward every Tuesday and Thursday. So I don't remember if this was a Tuesday or a Thursday, but I remember we were in the bathroom and you asked me, Dawania, what do you see when looking in that mirror? And I remember stuttering, like being kind of stumped, like, well, what you mean? What do I see? I mean, come on now. Fine, baby.
Absolutely.
And I began sharing all of the physical things that I saw. I began sharing, what I believe to be the beauty of who I am. Even though I was, still, I mean, the scars were visible at that time. Here, they've now faded. You can see them a little bit, but they were more visible, of course, at that time. But I remember you saying, well, let me tell you what I see. And when I tell you, that moment sticks with me to this day. You name things like you saw loyalty and, faithfulness and devoted. And like you were naming all these things that I was like, oh, he right, I am those things. But how come I didn't think of that? How come I didn't see myself in that way? I only saw what was physical. I only saw what was tangible, if you will. I didn't see that I was a queen. I didn't see that I was filled with power and purpose. I didn't see that, even though I had been through these struggles, that Christ was still working on me and that I still had a plan and purpose for my life. I didn't see any of this stuff. And granted, I grew up in church. I could recite the word back and forth, but was I living it? Was I able to say that I was able to really delve into it into a way that I could see it in progress and in works in my life? Absolutely not. But when I took a moment to step back and see it the way you saw it, and I felt like that was indicative of, in that moment, you were my big brother, of course, but it was representative of who God is and how he sees us. Of course, he know he made you fine, girl. He know you fine, but that's not all of who you are. But when I think of the years, and really not even just years, I'm talking decades of trauma and conditioning. Like you said, from a little child, hearing things like, you're just like your daddy, even though I just heard you say you don't like my daddy. I just heard you say my daddy ain't ish and he ain't gonna ever be ish. So that means if I'm just like him, that means I ain't gonna be ish either, right?
Absolutely.
I even recall my mother talking about my physical, ain't nobody ever gonna want that. And I went on a journey to prove her wrong. And of course, what did that get me? More heartbreak, And thank God we were able to, to some get on a path of healing. And before she left here, we were in a good place. But I just remember uncovering so much. I mean, I still have all of my journals from those years. I still even have, there's this golden ticket that Melinda was writing notes on one day for me, because you were pouring into me, and of course the tears were pouring, and I couldn't write. I still have that, and I refer to it often. And sometimes it still provokes tears because I know where I was back then. But I just want someone to hear this, whether it's today in the Facebook or the YouTube live world, or if it's, down the line in one of the podcast platforms, wherever you might be, and you hear this and you are right now feeling like you cannot make it. Let me be the first to tell you the devil is a liar. Not only will you make it, but when you do, you're going to bring everything and everyone attached with you. I could have never imagined that, because I decided to say yes, finally, right? After I finally got my healing. And I remember being, and in fact, we'll talk about this next week with my pastor. Pastor Karen will be here. I remember being on the altar and God literally being like, so you ready, or you gonna keep playing? And I'm like, this how we talk. I'm like, bruh, like, what you mean? Am I ready for what? Like, I thought this was it. Like, okay. But I got to that place where I said, okay, yes. I don't know what I'm saying yes to, Lord, but okay. The answer is yes. I don't know how you're going to do this. I don't know, who you're going to send, because I can't do this by myself. But the answer is yes. And to look how all of the things that have transpired since. So as you mentioned, becoming an author, owning a brand, Run Me My Crown, the movement, being able to lift my voice and vowing to never lose my voice again. Knowing that the enemy has been trying to silence me since I was in the womb. Knowing that that's exactly who Foxy's baby is. The baby in the womb who domestic violence should have taken her out then. But because of God's grace and mercy, I'm still here. And not only have I been able to, to step on it, to stand on it instead of in it, I'm now able to share my voice publicly. Me to share the story, and I mean share the story, the intimate details, the intricate details, the shame of it all, the guilt that came along with it. But all of that is no longer. And so again, wherever you might be when you hear this, I just need you to know that it's not for nothing. And when I tell you God will use every single bit of that pain and hurt that you've gone through, when I tell you, it's so crazy to me that even now, just the other day, what day was that? That must have been Sunday. I met a young lady, and when I tell you, every bit of my story was her story.
Wow.
I didn't even know, like, of course, I'm hearing God tell me to share, and I'm like, okay, here we go again. And I joke about it, but it's the truth. I'm always amazed. And in this moment, though, this young lady, she just begins pouring. And she don't know me from a can of paint. Literally just met her. She probably don't, well, maybe she does now, but at the time, she didn't even know my name. She just began pouring her entire story, to the fact that she had been in foster care and abused. And, she mentioned one person that she really believed was the person who really helped her to change her thought process and to really search for Jesus. And fast forward, when she began sharing, I sat there like, wow. When I tell you everything Almost everything that she was explaining, minus the foster care. That was the only thing I didn't experience, was the foster care in her story. Almost, but didn't. And for me to be able to look her in the eye and tell her, look at me, I'm everything that you just said, but I've been able to heal from all of those things. And you would never, ever know that I experienced those things if I didn't tell you. You would never, ever know that I'd been molested at age 7. You would never know I was physically assaulted by my brother at age 16. You would never know that I was pregnant with my first child at 17, aborted that baby at 18, pregnant again, that baby. Now I'm being beat like my mama was beat when I was pregnant, when she was pregnant with me. Then fast forward to the next relationship. I then get married. Now I'm being assaulted by my then husband. Fast forward. Like, so it was a constant cycle that just wouldn't end. But it's like the meme I saw recently that says, domestic violence ran in my family until it ran into me. It had to stop for my children. I couldn't live with knowing that if I didn't make a change today, and I didn't make the choice today, that my children were going to have to live with it tomorrow. And so I had to be the one. I had to be the one, to go through the struggle of being the first. Because when you're the first, like, who do you talk to? You can't get no advice, at least not on the earthly level. I couldn't go to somebody and say, well, how, in the family, how does this look? How do I do this? What's the blueprint? I literally had to trust in the Lord. And that's why I don't understand why people don't understand why I talk about him the way I do. Because I know who he is and I know who he's been throughout this process. And if it wasn't for him, I would have been dead. Been dead. Because that fool been trying to take me out again since I was in my mother's womb. That was my first encounter with domestic violence, in my mother's womb. And again, that's who Foxy's baby is. That baby who had no idea that she was predestined. She had to make it. And ironically enough, and again, we'll talk about it more next week, but I remember my pastor saying the family's often hardest on the deliverer. And then it all began to make sense. Why I always seem to be the black sheep, if you will. I always seem to be different. Always seem to kind of go against the grain. As much as I tried so hard to be normal, that's not who he created me to be. He created me to be boisterous, to be bold, to be authentically me. And I'm thankful for people like yourself. And there's so many, I ain't even gonna get into name dropping because there's so many individuals that I've watched over the years who have been authentically themselves. And just by them being themselves, they have given me permission to be myself. No longer wondering, am I okay? Am I good enough? Being afraid of, being afraid of my own shadow, if you will. I've definitely had those moments like, whoop, that thing big, wait a minute. But all of that to say, I'm just so grateful for people like yourself, again, who saw me for who God created me to be, even when I didn't see it, even when I was still struggling to even have hope in tomorrow, let alone have hope in my future. but to continue to speak life, to continue to cover me in prayer, to continue to lift me, even when. If I could get to Atlanta like right now, I'd get there and I'd hug you so tight because I'm just grateful. I'm so, so grateful. And yeah, I ain't gonna start crying again because you know I will. Because I mean that from the bottom of my heart, just thinking about where I could have been.
You know, if I can just interject this quickly, when we were counseling, I understood that I could not counsel you according to the textbook because you were a different breed. And you just said you spent your whole life trying to fit in. And you read a part of my bio about giving God a second chance. See, those people that need to give God a second chance, they're not meant to fit in. They're meant to stand out. And that's why it's funny because I knew that I could not counsel you through the textbook. I remember one time in your counseling when I asked you, have you had your funeral yet?
Yep.
And you was like, what? I was like, no, seriously, have you had your funeral yet? Because as long as you haven't had that funeral, you're going to keep reliving this thing. And, and it's funny because, Dawania, even as we sit here tonight and talk, how many of your listening audience is living this thing and don't understand that there is a way out? There is somebody who understands. And the beauty of it is, if they do the work, if they go through it, they can come out not looking like what they've been through. You know, I sit here and this is Domestic Violence Month. And how many people won't pick up the phone to have the conversation? How many people will continue to hide in the shame and the pain instead of saying, wait a minute, enough is enough?
Yeah.
You know, I always strive to be the person that if you need a listening ear, a sounding board, let's pray about this thing. Let's talk about this thing. Let's examine it. It's amazing to me how people think that you can move on from a situation without ever addressing it.
Yeah.
You know, and I believe, even though you got your healing, but I believe you would have never been healed if you didn't go through the counseling. You had there was things that you had to address, things that you had suppressed, things that you had forgotten about. But we don't understand that it's those things that shape our mentality and how we think and how we respond, how we interact with things.
Yeah.
And so, you know, tonight, before you close this thing, I just want to make sure that people understand that there is someone that you can call. There is someone that you can reach out to, because domestic violence is real. And, you know, sin is progressive. It's just almost like drugs. Marijuana is an introductory drug. Well, most of the time in domestic violence, tearing down someone's self-esteem is the introductory. And we gotta understand, when people are saying snide things and terrible comments, we can't tolerate that, because guess what? Eventually it'll go to the next level.
Yep.
And we have to understand that we serve a God. You know, even as I sat here and listened to you share your story, you have gotten to that place where you understand that God has been that great deliverer for you, that he brought you out in spite of you, brought you out sometimes crying and screaming. He still kept pulling on you even when you wasn't fully committed.
Yes.
You know, I mean,
Yeah.
and I say we got to give God another chance because, listen, in spite of whatever you've been through, the fact that God still wake you up in the morning and you're breathing, your purpose is not fulfilled. Your assignment is not completed. And this is maybe this is that pivotal moment in your life. But if you just talk to the right person, and it's so funny because just like you said, yeah, I'm just opening the door because this my sister's husband. I mean, counseling ain't gonna work. I already wrote it off. But the thing was, it's so funny. You had already been through counseling, and that's how come I had to always keep coming from left field. I had to always give you an assignment that
Yes.
was on the book, so you could be like, "Well, where he going with this?"
Yes.
You see what I'm saying? Because guess what?
Mhm.
Even you just had I tried to stay in the books, it would have been another epic fail.
Yeah.
But the thing is, it was more than just the domestic violence piece. You know, you even it does something to you mentally. And I remember when we did one of our assignments where we did an outside counsel. Remember that?
Yep.
And I, and we talked about how you presented yourself and how you interacted, because again, that was the thing to show you the growth in this thing doesn't have me like the whole it once had on me.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
Because one thing I say all the time, if you hit anything hard enough, if it see anything like that, it'll flinch. But when I saw you, because you had morphed into a hermit. You was just really trying to stay home in the gym. If you had to go to the grocery store to get Asia something to eat, okay, God, I'll do it. But you really wasn't out. You wasn't really going out. But, I said, I got to get her back out into the world. Baby steps, but she got to move. The thing is, I'm telling you, I feel that somebody right now is stuck. And the thing is, Dawania, you can be stuck and look like you got it all together.
How about it?
It's some people from the outside, they look like they got it all together. But guess what? Just like when you were standing in front of that mirror telling me all this physical stuff, and I was standing there, I remember standing there that day saying to myself, man, wait till about 20 more years when gravity catch up with the one. What's she gonna stay on her list now? What's gonna be on her list? The thing is, all of those things I was able to say, they're not gonna fade. They're not gonna pass away.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? And the thing, I just wanted you to see just a little bit deeper than the surface, that it was so much more to you. There's so much more purpose into you. There's purpose in you right now that you haven't even tapped into.
Yeah.
And you know what? It's so funny how many people have wrote you off, and God has now put you in position that even when your assignment is over, your legacy will live on.
Whew. Come on, Jesus.
See, because that's what the devil do. The devil will write you off. The devil will tell you, just like you say, you ain't much, you ain't going to amount to much. Your legacy and your lineage you come from don't go that far. But guess what? They never thought you would take it this far, but you're still here.
Yeah.
Can I be honest? And I ain't trying to hit you with no pun, but guess what? He hit you with his best shot and you still here.
Yes.
Guess what? He didn't silence you. He didn't take your voice from you. And guess what? Just like you say, okay, you got the scar, but you can't tell me you ain't fabulous with the scar.
Fabulous, baby. You heard it.
You see what I'm saying? We got to know whose we are and who we are.
Yes.
And that's the thing. It's not just your voice, but it's the confidence in your voice. Yes. Not the confidence in self, but the confidence in the God that delivered you, the God that brought you out. And see, as I sit here tonight and talk to you and share with you, like you said, it's been a minute since me and you really talked. Now, since we're in Atlanta and you up there now, it's like, we hit each other up for the birthdays or whatever. But guess what? That same God that we used to couldn't stop talking about on the parking lots if we ran into each other at the grocery store.
Yes.
He's still the same God.
Yes.
And you know what? When he put his hands on you, Dawania, nobody can't beat that out of you. Nobody can silence that. You know, when you know that you know a thing, and one thing that I know with the sure, you encourage me tonight to know that, guess what? This message of hope that I carry, this gospel that I carry, look at the life that it impacted. Not that it make me feel good, but it makes my Father feel good, because guess what? The devil really desired to destroy you. And think about this, Dawania. It wasn't just a physical scar, because look at the mark it would have left on your child.
Yes. Yes.
But do you understand, when God brought you out, not only did he bring you out for you, he brought you out so your daughters that's looking up to you can say, wait a minute, my mommy say, you draw the line right here. This is not no queen behavior. This ain't something a queen endure. I am so amazed, Dawania, that just like you said, 12 years ago, it was a different day, but the same topic. But the pain that you felt then is now part of your strength.
Yes.
And you just gotta just continue to share your message. Don't take down. Let the enemy know, if that's all you got, you in trouble. I mean, you have encouraged me. I'm so proud of what you're doing on these platforms, because the world needs to hear, in the midst of everything that's going on, the world needs to hear that, hey, I too can overcome.
Yeah.
And so, tonight I salute you, but I pray that somebody will either reach out to one of your platforms if they need somebody to talk to, if they need somebody to point them in the right directions, because Dawania, this is domestic violence is something you cannot just overcome by yourself. You just can't. Because number one, you got to learn how to release it, and you can't release with internalizing.
That's right.
You see what I'm saying? And so therefore, I just applaud you for picking up your armor and your badge and your assignment and marching with it. I applaud you for it, because you are a shining beacon that the world needs to see. Because guess what? Truly, God is able to do it for you, and he's able to do it for others. This is a blessing. It really is.
Now I got me snot nosed the whole show, Rev. But indeed, it has truly been a pleasure. I know we went over just a bit, and I really appreciate those of you who were able to, stick and stay. We usually try to keep it to an hour, just, to respect your time. But, when the Holy Spirit go, I let him go. And I'm just, I can't say how grateful I am enough for who you are, who you've been, who you will continue to be in my life, and to see the hand of God on you, and how he continues to move in and through you. I ain't gonna get into it, but just to see you in the life of my sister is so encouraging to me, especially as a single woman who has really lost faith in the dating world. I'm like, okay, maybe I'm supposed to just be single. Okay, I'm cool with that. I'm gonna just go ahead and focus over here. But no, seriously, I'm truly grateful to say that I have a living witness. Like I can point to you and say, I saw it done. You can't tell me it can't be done because I saw it. I saw how you courted her. I saw how you honored her. I saw how you didn't ask her for nothing. You know, I saw how you've always been a king and you've always walked in that, and that you've always been a godly man, and that you didn't what's the word I'm looking for? You didn't compromise. And so you didn't expect her to either. You know, and so to see y'all now getting ready to go on what, year 11?
Yes.
Sheesh.
Yes.
Proof that it can be done if you do it the right way. And so, yeah, to think that it all started with someone calling for prayer.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, it's funny. I tell her all the time, Dawania, I just wanted to meet her because God had never just spoke about somebody to me about prophesying over them, and I don't even know this person.
Right.
You know, I wanted to know, who is this person God is talking about? It's a cloud of blessings over them. Who is this? And so, and when I met her, she was just so cool. Hey, how you doing, my brother? God bless you. Ain't give me the name, the number, nothing. Peace. You know, I'm just like, all right, cool. You know, but I mean, God just, it was just something, it was a divine attraction. And this has been an amazing journey. Amazing.
Indeed. And again, you know, like I tell you all the time, I'm just grateful that you are who you are to her and that she is who she is to you. I love y'all with my whole self. And I'm just grateful, you know, of course, to have her on last week along with 2 other breast cancer survivors. And of course, having you this week. Like, listen, October is lit, as the young folks say. And we're gonna actually end the month out next week with my mama, my spiritual mama, my pastor, Pastor Karen. I'm just excited. Like, when I say, like, the 2 of y'all have truly tag teamed into helping me to become the woman that God was calling me all along to be. And so I'm definitely grateful for your time tonight. Like I said, I can't wait till this COVID thing get under wraps so I can come and hug you for real in real life, because it's only been forever.
Yeah.
But as long as we have all this good technology, at least I can get to see your face. And so I thank you again. Is there anything you wanted to maybe leave with the people today?
Well, you know, first of all, I just want to say thank you for allowing me to come and share on this platform. And, you know, if I had to leave something, I would just leave this real quick message that I saw today. I found this to be an amazing statement. Life is for living. You got to live. I don't care what you're going through or what you've gone through or will go through. If you are still living, you got to live.
Yes. And we're going to drop the mic right there. You got to live.
You
So
got to live.
heard it. You heard it straight from the Rev's mouth. You have got to live. Man, if only you was right here in Maryland still, I'd be right there. Be scared. You know me coming around the corner on 2 weeks. But when you get off of this live, what I would ask that you would do is that you go in there, you find my sister, and you hug her tight for me.
Absolutely.
Tell her how much I love her. And I know she's going to hug you right back so tight.
Absolutely.
I truly love y'all. I appreciate you spending time tonight. I appreciate you just being who you've been. And you've always been that consistent brother. You've always been that voice of reason. You know, you call with a word. You can get me laughing and in tears at the same time. And I'm just grateful. So until next week, when we're back here Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with Rummy My Crown radio show, I appreciate each and every one of you from wherever you might be checking in, whether it's in the radio listening world, the podcast world, or even Facebook or YouTube Live, or even the replay. We truly appreciate you. I hope that you've been blessed as much as we have. God bless you, and I'll see you next time. Smooches.